living in the projects with Pee Wee, and we doing our thing, and everybody starts seeing. I start flying like my little homies down there. They start seeing the movement, and they just start gaining and gaining and gaining. So that's how MPA really like got our stamp. We like the big homies of Atlanta. Right. I'm from LA. You know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, me and Pee Wee, we really started that whole blue movement. Everybody was Bloods. Like, that's why everybody wanted to be like Lil Wayne.
Teresa, the seizure made on Thursday was part of a 2-year-long operation called Sweet Silence. This was an investigation into alleged illegal activities of the Zohannan and Crips criminal street gang involving drug trafficking.
What are the chances that the federal government has infiltrated hip-hop content creation, streaming, podcasting, YouTube, and what are the chances? It's not zero. But some of them interviews may lock me into a situation where I get hit with gang enhancement.
Now niggas wanna loan me to death. Salute, Loan.
Yeah, exactly.
It's my man, Loan.
That's my man too.
Both loans. Old loan, new loan, both loans.
Okay.
Yeah,
All ops must know it's up there and it's stuck there, nigga.
When it's up there, man, it's stuck there.
Shut up.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the fantasy sports platform that's changing the game for people like us. With Prize Picks, you can test your knowledge with picking over and under for your favorite player stats across a wide variety of sports. Think football, baseball, basketball, and beyond. So why wait? Jump into Prize Picks right now and bring more excitement to game day. Whether you're cheering from the stands or the couch, Prize Picks adds that extra layer of fun for sports excitement. Again, my slogan, why would you put something on the game when you could put something on the name? Let's get into those picks and start winning with Prize Picks today. IUTP code. Let's get back to the show. We got a couple things on the agenda. Today we're going to talk about Pee Wee Longway's arrest. We'll discuss the gang-related allegations surrounding his arrest and how interviews and media speculation may play a role in that case and several cases. We got Southern rapper Honcho fighting with an influencer. A fight at a Sexy Red concert highlights a dangerous blend of street credibility and public altercations. And so we're going to discuss that. And of course, we're going to discuss Diddy's fall. We're going to take a deep dive into Diddy's arrest, him being denied bond, and the sale of his assets, and exploring how his legacy as a billionaire playboy is collapsing under criminal investigation. We'll also touch on the media's role in building him up, tearing him down, and then acting surprised as he's being nailed to the cross. So each of these stories center around consequences of power, exposure, secrets. There's a lot we discussed today on this Up There podcast, and I want to welcome everyone. Hopefully we help you guys make it through your day, and hopefully you tell someone about the show. It's a very simple process. We don't ask for much, right? Let's get to it. Pee Wee Longway. For those unaware, Atlanta native and rapper who was instrumental in a number of careers, Pee Wee Longway was arrested as part of a massive drug bust in Columbus, Georgia called Operation Sweet Silence. It targets street gangs and drug trafficking. The operation involved over 250 agents and several SWAT teams. It resulted in the arrest of 101 individuals, including Longway. Authorities seized the amount of drugs: 57 kilograms of cocaine, 7 kilograms of fentanyl, 55,000 pounds of marijuana, and more. A total, according to the arresting officers, 280 million. The sheriff of the county emphasized that the bust was part of an ongoing effort to dismantle organized crime in the area. Pee Wee Longway is a rapper. Today we're going to speak about a number of things, right? So I'm on Twitter. Everyone's involved with some of the narratives that's been shaped. So we're going to have a conversation today about Longway. According to them, they caught $280 million worth of narcotics and took that off the streets. And so you have a very, very big problem in the city if you want me to believe that you got 280 million worth. We'll deal with that in just a second. Let's deal with what the internet's speaking about. Pee Wee Longway has been subject of interviews and media narratives that associate him with gang influence to certain areas. While Longway has cultivated a persona tied to street culture, these interviews, often by individuals with documented gang ties, could be used against him in court. It's significant that some of the interviews hail from California, state notoriously linked with gang culture, further fueling the speculation around Longway's role in spreading gang influence. And so I think it's important that we have a conversation surrounding Bricc Baby. For the people who do not know, Bricc Baby is a host on No Jumper. He is from the West Coast, and he does content. He's involved with a lot of shit that's online. We don't really get involved over there in the weeds where, all of that shit that they do, right? But after we take a look at a couple of things here, I want to have a broad conversation with hip hop. I want to have a broad conversation with rap and just black males that's been in position of leadership and power, right? I want to have a bigger conversation than some little bullshit gang conversation. I want to deal with this aspect of it because the screams from the crowd is saying, someone pay attention to this. So to give you a little context of what we're going to speak about today, I think 1 or 2 days prior to the arrest of Pee Wee Longway and a host of other guys, according to this paperwork, it says 101 people, Bricc Baby and Adam 22 from No Jumper was in Atlanta, and they met up with Lil Woody. They did a bunch of interviews, did a bunch of podcasts. They met up with Lil Woody, did some vlogs. And so Bricc Baby has been someone who's notable in Atlanta, according to these guys. So these guys say they know him. He kind of was down there when he was younger. According to some of the people on the West Coast, some things happened up there, and he went to Atlanta for whatever reason. He went to Atlanta. He stood on business. Looked like his reputation is all right in Atlanta. Looked like they look at him like, yo, I f with what he bring to the table. So people take it for what it's worth. I think the bigger conversation is Bricc Baby is a little too comfortable saying some of these things on the internet. And in a second, I'm going to give you an example of one of those things I'm speaking about. And I say this because there's still protection for the people that's operating under a certain protocol. If anything happened with me right now, these people don't know where to start. That's intentional. I can't drag everybody out here in the light. I can't drag the whole process out here in the light. Then what they're saying about like, and so what I'm saying is, as in a leadership role, when I see him and he be loose with some of these stories and some of this shit, I be saying, yo, it's consequences and repercussion, right? When is giving away certain information, especially coming from where he come from. My narrative and my theory is, with him coming from the West Coast and the federal government looking at the West Coast like a solidified gangland, like we know they strength when it come to gangs. Here we have a West Coast guy come down to Atlanta, plug in with Longway. Now, maybe that's Longway homeboy. Maybe they cool, they friends, they like brothers, they like family, they locked in, tied in. But some of them interviews may lock me into a situation where I get hit with gang enhancement. Some of what interviews? Pay attention to this, roll the tape.
Like, you know what I'm saying, Bankhead. So I'm down there in Bankhead. We going to the clubs. I'm living in the projects with Pee Wee. And we doing our thing, and everybody starts seeing. I start flying like my little homies down there. They start seeing the movement, and they just start gaining and gaining and gaining. So that's how MPA really like got our stamp. We like the big homies of Atlanta. Wow. And I'm from LA. You know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, me and Pee Wee, we really started that whole blue movement. Everybody was Bloods. Like, that's why everybody wanted to be like Lil Wayne. Like, I went down there around Hurricane Katrina time.
But it wasn't any kind of conflict because you got Thug out here as Blood, and then you guys are Crips out there?
That's Lil Bro. That's why every time you see Thug, he on Swanson. Or he doing some, like, you know what I'm saying? He don't really, I told Thug, like, man, he didn't ever want to switch no way, but I told him, like, man, I'm gonna just introduce you to some powerful bloods, bro. You know what I'm saying? You don't gotta get with this movement. Just stay doing what you're doing. You don't want nobody to say you hood hopping and all that.
Yeah.
And he wasn't ever thinking about it though. I ain't saying it like that, but you know what I'm saying? So I started showing him the game with what's going on the West Coast too.
Right.
You know, I took him in front of Nip in like 09 and told him to work with him. And Nip was like iffy. Thug was slime there. He was real like, you know what I'm saying? He was out here robbing, doing all, you know,
Real.
regular hood. So,
And I mean, when Thug,
So for people who are unaware, and it should be little to nobody that's unaware about how the judicial system works at this point. We're dealing with Diddy being arrested. We're going to get to that in a second. We're dealing with Young Thug being in trial now for about 6 months. We're dealing with YFN Lucci was indicted. We're dealing with Tory Lanez was indicted. We're dealing with Casanova was indicted. We're dealing with Tekashi 6ix9ine was indicted. We're dealing with Tax Stone was indicted. Like, I just hope y'all are paying attention. Right? I just hope y'all really paying attention. Because if y'all think these interviews can't be brought in some of these courtrooms, y'all ain't aware of the rules that's in place. We watching a whole trial with Thug on a state level where they're playing videos where you can't even really make out the English. What did he say, Your Honor? Well, I think he said drop. Well, I say he say pop. And y'all niggas playing with this internet thing, talking about who started whole gangs and brought whole entire gangs. There ain't nobody in the rap world met one of my big homies. Or nobody really tied to me. Yet there ain't no smut on my name. Because number one, I'm the big homie. And then number two, there's too much at stake to draw everybody out into the field. The only people that come out on the field is the people with jerseys on. You know how wild you'll look out here on the basketball court and we all got gym suits on and acting, at least acting like we balling. We at least acting like we playing basketball. You understand me? Y'all niggas will get on these interviews and shit and ruin my whole little setup. At least I'm over here acting like I'm a hooper. I remember one time I went to court, niggas coming up all up on me, talking to me, man. Y'all gonna make them DA people think I'm somebody. I like for people to think I'm nobody and nothing. You understand me? You play a fool to catch a fool. And so I'm always operating with game in administration. It's always a demonstration in progress when it come to me. But what are the chances, right? Pee Wee Longway arrested. It's 101 people. I want to be genuine in my conversation and transparent and not just have a podcast for the sake of having a podcast. They got 101 people. Ain't no telling how long they've been investigating. I do believe them that had been on their heels and kind of watching what him and those people were doing, him being Pee Wee Longway, and trying to figure out how to put it together. 101 arrests is crazy. That's a whole nother thing. But what are the chances that Pee Wee Longway has a scenario where him and NBA Youngboy is close? NBA Youngboy has a federal situation. Look at this video.
Hey, but I know what we do got coming.
What's that?
That long way. That long
They ain't ready
way.
for that.
I ain't ready for this. I ain't ready for long way.
Enforcement partners held a news conference regarding a large seizure of drugs, money, and guns made Thursday morning. WRBL's Michelle Jennings attended the news conference. She joins us now with more details. Michelle.
Teresa, the seizure made on Thursday was part of a 2-year-long operation called Sweet Silence. This was an investigation into alleged illegal activities of the Zohannan and Crips criminal street gang involving drug trafficking. Muskogee County sheriffs say 126 search warrants were issued. Law enforcement successfully seized nearly $280 million of drugs, including heroin, cocaine, meth, and fentanyl. Guns and cash were also seized, as well as nearly $280,000 of U.S. currency. Operation Sweet Silence made a total of 101 arrests, 31 of those being in Columbus.
I'll stand here today knowing Columbus and the surrounding areas are much safer than they were prior to yesterday's operation. Operation Sweet Silence was a joint effort by the FBI Southwestern Georgia Gang Task Force to stop the wave of violent crime, including homicides, shootings, and other crimes that have swept across our community because of Zohannan and other neighborhood-based gangs that are operating in the Columbus area.
So you see the arrest video from the news outlet. You also see NBA Youngboy showing love the long way. I have a growing concern because at night sometimes I ask myself, what are the chances that the federal government has infiltrated hip-hop content creation, streaming, podcasting, YouTube, and what are the chances? It's not zero. The chances of them being in position inside of this hip-hop content world or hip-hop period is not zero. There are 100% people that are working with law enforcement inside of hip-hop. And I don't mean people that's in plain clothes, because a job is a job. You do your job. And again, I don't celebrate criminal culture. I shun it. But I do examine the behavior of human beings that came from the place that I come from. So pay attention. There's no way you can tell me that the federal government has not positioned themselves to be involved in content creation in some way. And that's another reason why, right? Sometimes I look like the old grumpy dude or the guy that came from nothing that looks like he's upset with the choices of people and how they navigate the media landscape. It's not that. What happens is it's concerning to people like us who sit in these positions of integrity. See, I won't compromise no matter if it come with compensation. And so when I'm looking around and I'm seeing, oh my goodness, they ain't understanding how to preserve. They don't understand to wrap the meat in aluminum foil and put it in the freezer. See, they don't got no game. Ain't nobody told them how to preserve the food. Make sure it's still good when the kids get out of school. Maybe mama want a plate, right? We trying to preserve the food, right? But one thing I noticed, right, even when I watch streaming, I watch the whole content creation saga. You know how people run in and out of these different buildings. And I say, all you got to do to get the rappers there is have some kind of numbers or have somebody that think you have some kind of numbers. So if you're the federal government, it's nothing to inflate the numbers. It's nothing for you maybe to get in touch with YouTube and we're running Operation Digital Noose, right? We're running Operational Digital Noose and we need you guys to make it look like that this platform has this amount of people watching, this amount of people involved because the rappers chase the clout. On top of that, I remember when I was coming up, and some of y'all out there be able to agree with this and share these experiences. When I was coming up, you know, I don't like when them young niggas try to call me Unc either. Unc having a whole bunch of paper. Y'all watching Unc word out there. I don't really get on with that, but I do come from another generation, the generation before this one, right? When things was just a little bit different. We was introduced to this internet thing in our 20s, our late 20s and 30s. My generation is probably one of the only generations that grew up in the technology phase of not only the beeper but the iPhone, right? So we had our youth to have the beeper being a thing and also the iPhone being a thing, right? Social media becoming a thing in our late 20s, early 20s, late 20s, right? So I remember coming up, you got these dudes with these loose lips on these interviews and in these content worlds. These guys be having real information. No, this is the same thing I said about Woody. Sometimes I'm listening, right? Being a outstanding member, sometimes I'm listening, I'm saying, sound like his story might got a little something to it. Or sound like he may have really been involved. So when I see somebody like Bricc Baby or any of these people that really come out the huddle, y'all got to keep the plays to yourself now. You got to be smart enough to get the money doing content without blowing the homies up. You see what I'm saying? Because if it was just that easy, everybody would just pop out and do it, and niggas would be going to jail left and right. You know what I mean? Just coming out saying, shit, you know, You know, I did this, I did that, I did this and that. And that's what started this whole era. This ain't the only example of this, man. You got guys getting right out of prison, and that's what they doing. Listen, if you gonna make a living out of it, go on and go with it. But don't blow the house the home is living up in, though. I remember being in the streets when Jesus first came out, man. The streets was really upset with Jesus and when he was putting certain shit in songs. Like, it was street niggas that I know, high level niggas that was like, man, nigga rapping about such and such, he blowing it up. Niggas really trying to do that, use that, fuck with that. You gotta respect the ground you pulling the crop from. I miss the days where I come up in the 2010s hustling. The early 2000s and the 2010s era, all of that era. I come up in that era. In that era, when niggas heard the feds was in town, niggas will shut the whole city down. It'd be a drought just because they heard the feds was in town. Well, what do you mean heard the feds was in town? Well, the feds ain't in everybody's city, in every state. How do you know when the feds in town? Man, they picked up such and such. Who? Man, the feds. Man, the feds picked him up. Operation shutdown. Niggas sneaking and maybe catching one or two people, but they staying out the way because the feds in town. Nowadays, dudes will know that like the feds picked you up and he'll still come to the trap. I be seeing these young niggas, they be all in the trap and all in the car with the homeboys and shit with the ankle monitor on. Man, back when I was out there, a nigga better not come around me with no ankle monitor on. You what they call warm in my city. See, they had a word, warm, they called you. That mean he ain't told and they ain't grabbed him yet, but they own him. We don't know what's gonna happen. He warm. We don't know how they gonna do it, but he warm. And we understood that. And niggas respected the game enough to know, man, I ain't seen Lil Bron in 6 months. He pop up, case over with, whatever done happen. Man, shit, I had got a little warm, man. Them folks started pulling me over. I knew I was a little warm. I stayed away. Man, these niggas would show up to your gambling spot, to your trap spot, to where you hold your guns and try to, where you live with your family, whatever you got going on in your life, they would show up with an ankle monitor on and just holler out, nigga, I ain't gonna never tell. I ain't doing no telling. You got an ankle monitor on in the trap, homie. And I ain't saying you telling, you don't know what technology that is. It look like a box, don't it? Man, they might can tap into that bitch when they know you in certain spots and listen, anything. Do not show up around me when I was outside like that with an ankle monitor on. Nowadays, they have no respect for the feds, the police, nothing. They can know they under investigation. They still be talking stupid. Anybody pushing back on what I'm saying, you just don't have the knowledge, right? You don't have the intel. You don't have the understanding. You don't have the capacity, the data, the upgrades, the package to understand what I'm saying, right? If you think what I'm saying is far-fetched, that law enforcement, I mean, listen, history shows this. This ain't even something history shows that law enforcement will get creative and use creative methods to get evidence. This is not something that's even worth going back and forth over. People of different races or hear some of these scenarios and they couldn't imagine that this kind of thing would be taking place, but I'm here to tell you that this is a real thing. In closing with Pee Wee Longway, I want to talk about the arrest and the inflation of the drug price. While arresting Pee Wee Longway and 101 other people, law enforcement reported that the drugs seized were worth over $200 million. However, it's well known that law enforcement will over-exaggerate and inflate the drug seizures amount, right? Just to gain favor in the media and the courtroom. They play a media game. We see it with Diddy. Again, we're going to talk about him after this. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. Of course, it was more than this, but we have 57 keys of cocaine. Listen, $200 million is out the way. This is what I need you to understand. They do that inflation of what they claim that it's worth, but under what guidelines? Like, how do you think this is worth $200 million? But they break it all the way down to say, well, our data shows us that you can sell 0.2 of this for $10. And you got 56,000 kilos of it. And so maybe they're doing something weird like that. Ain't no maybe. They are doing that to gain favor, to make it seem like this big elaborate bust. Pee Wee Longway is somebody that's done time before. I think he'll be completely fine. And I don't mean fine like it's okay to do the time or it's okay to leave your family. I don't see this being something that breaks him in that way. As far as Bricc Baby and people pushing back on that, saying, yo, Bricc Baby brought the feds down there because him and No Jumping them was down there doing that interview. I would say that that's not the case, right? I would say that now we're going to learn, even with Diddy, as we learn with Tekashi, that it is interesting that the day y'all left or the day after they moved in, we do know that the feds will move after certain things, right? They see certain things and it will cause them to move. So what caused them to move on that particular day? I think that's a conversation maybe to be had at a later date. But with 101 people, Bricc Baby and them coming down there one day before, I don't think that visit played into it. His connection to the West Coast, maybe the Bricc or any of those other guys that may be peddling the gang culture, that's going to come back to haunt him. And some of these guys stand on the gang culture, so whatever it come with, you know what I mean? I'm going to die holding this flag, so whatever it come with. But I would tell my homies, to do your best to keep me out of conversations that don't shed me in the best light, seeing where I'm going at 39 years old. You know what I mean? I'm a grown man, so the little fame y'all gonna give me for whatever they verify ain't worth the case they gonna give me for whatever that you qualify me for. You dig? The praise you'll give me in some documentary or the verified to some dude, or I need to take him to the trap to show him how it's going, and all I'm getting out of that is, nah, Loon took me to the trap. I done blew my people whole shit up. Some nigga, we don't even know his ties, if he under investigation. What, like, how y'all just doing some of these things? Like, it's interesting dynamics to me. I don't bring nobody to my city to take them to the trap. I'll take you to the good food in the trap. I might take you to this house in the trap where they gamble. Like, I might take you places in the ghetto, but I don't take you to stand around and drink lean. I'm a grown man. That ain't what we doing. Y'all can do that if y'all find interest in that. But what you see the police doing when they talk about this $200 million thing, number one, that mean the drought is in Atlanta for everybody that's looking for some weed, and it's finna be a drought if they grab $200 million out your ecosystem. That's one. Two, what they're doing is called the fisherman tale. What happens is fishermen usually are out there with either other fishermen or solo or someone that doesn't have the expertise to know any better. And so it's said that fishermen used to exaggerate the size of his catch. And so that's why they call it the fisherman tale. It's like, yo, bro, y'all you exaggerating what y'all got going on? 200 million. Boy, you know who you interrupting? You grab 200 million out the street. You know, I know Rollo got caught with some little weed and all that, and Rollo be moving around like, yeah, I was one of them. This dude here, they really was those guys, man. They done caught them boys with all different kind. Them folks was allegedly, according to, like, yeah, they really moving and grooving. You understand me? But I would tell people, if you're in the streets, get out the streets. Like, hiding $40 million is absurd. Reeing up with 40 million is absurd. Reeing up with 40 million is a issue. Like, it's an issue I don't want. To have $40 million worth of shit dropped into the city, and then you got to figure where to put it, who to trust with it, who to trust with the money. You can't have it at your house. You can't have it. That was some of the problems when you get to those other levels. That's why I be telling them little niggas, you got your whole pack on you, half ounce selling that nigga. You got your whole pack on you. Man, nigga, I'm having trouble figuring out where to hide some of that shit. You know, but, yo, free Longway, man, you know what I'm saying? I think he got an uphill battle coming, though. You know, he definitely got an uphill battle coming his way. And it ain't going to be easy to get out of it. Let's move on.